Hi, I'm Fiona Doherty. I'm a final year PhD student here. I generally work in the area of analytic philosophy, so I've been in Cambridge now for 3 years, where I've taught in various forms of supervisions and had quite a lot of experience with postgraduates and undergraduates here.
So apart from just the struggles of applying, were there any other specific challenges that you found when you were trying to get into philosophy?
At the undergraduate level, none of that was very salient. So when I applied and got into philosophy and I was doing my first couple of years there, there were as many boys as girls in the course, and none of that stuff was really noticeable. I suppose the biggest way in which it came up was that there weren't any women. I didn't read any women at all. So I think you just got the sense, but some of my lecturers were women. But you did still get the sense that back in the day it was a bit of a lads thing. For a long time I thought I was really immune to the gender thing, which I would vaguely hear about. And I felt like that was because, it's just not salient to me, so it doesn't come up, it's all about the philosophy.
Yeah.
But during my masters, I had a kind of realisation at some point that I think it was from something really stupid as well. I think I had put on some nail polish, right? And I was reading an article on the bus, and I caught sight of my nails, and I was just reading this article about Frege, and I caught this bizarre little thought in my head. It was something like, you're not that serious.
Really? Yeah.
And it just in that way that would never ever be a conscious thought I had, but I caught it and I thought, what is this? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
So that really led me to examine, I'm not free of this.
So presentation is important when it comes to academia, you think?
Not in a very deep way, not immediately in that I felt peer pressured in any way or whatever. It was coming from me.
Subconscious.
So actually, I realised I had to pay attention to the fact that I'd been immersed and sensitive to a culture.
So it's more self-aware?
Yeah, it's I realised that you can have these biases that you don't see all the time, but you're still operating under them.
Yeah.
And thinking about how you present yourself and not wanting to appear too female or something like that.
So do you think the way to avoid these biases, kind of innate biases, is moving more towards a kind of genderless society, or should we still actually be recognising and almost celebrating differences between men and women?
That's actually really interesting. In the sense that I think philosophers are a bit like artists, they're just doing some work in some field and they're developing a voice and a coherent system to say about something. Then, you have to actually bring all of who you are to the table. So I think there's such a social element to philosophy, it's such a dialectic. Even how we carry out research together and we do seminars and we read each other's work, and this creates that is what philosophy is as a discipline. So I think in that sense it should be brought to the table. However, whatever your gender identity is should be happily integrated to that.
So do you think your gender identity, whether that be male, female, non-binary, has an impact on your functioning in this social group of philosophy?
Yeah, and then that's the sense in which I think it shouldn't do. Right. So in a way it should be integrated and you should have no apologies for it, but then there should be almost it should have no more effect than that, I think. So it shouldn't influence you in these ways that I caught it influencing myself, for example. It shouldn't influence you to change courses you do, or to perceive of yourself in a different way than any of your peers. But neither should it too far influence, I'm a minority group in philosophy, so I'm being discriminated against, so, that's how I should interpret all these actions.
Yeah, it's difficult though, because part of, the movement of feminism, and just in general that kind of trying to avoid or get over gender discrimination and bias, is kind of almost affirmative action in bringing up the female voice. and like finding empowerment through that. And it's kind of a struggle because I agree with you in that we shouldn't exploit the differences or let it influence our actions, but at the same time it is kind of a persistent struggle that we do need to.
Oh, I totally agree. And actually, like, I think studies have shown that the thing that makes you most likely to resist these kind of subconscious biases I'm talking about is if you're salient of them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know of yourself you're capable or have these biases, you're more likely to act against them.
Okay. Finally, what advice would you give to any prospective female philosophy students?
I think I would say to them not to think of themselves as a female philosophy student, just to suss out if this thing's really for them, and if so, remember that they'll hear all this stuff and they're going into a culture which isn't perfect, and it might be perfect in a way that disadvantages them, but it's not going to be fixed overnight. So the main thing is just to like be aware of it, but also not to let it affect you. Concentrate on the philosophy, right?
Yeah.
And you know, so it's all about, you know, they're finding their way to do this subject. They're finding their style, their voice. They're being trained in a tradition. All that stuff is just completely independent of, you know,
How you identify.
how they. Yeah, exactly. That would be my advice to female philosophy students and any philosophy students.
All philosophy students, but okay. Thanks.
Cool, thanks very much, Jasmine.